right? Um, okay, so yeah. Now, initially, first of all, what I believe is that since we all know that the requirement is always, first of all, look at the requirement, just skim what is given in the requirement, and then start with the question. So the first important requirement is that evaluate the performance report in Appendix 1 as requested. Requested means what? Requested means something has been requested specifically by the CEO. So you have to make sure that you should address the problem, that is for 20 marks. Then it says using the data. So first important point which we are going to practice is the performance report. Then using the data in Appendix 1, recommend with appropriate calculation 3 new performance measures for the company as requested. As requested, again, requested means something is specifically given in your question which you must consider while writing the answer. And then advise on appropriate performance measures and system for the company by using value chain approach and then big data and then professional marks. So these are the four requirements. As I said in your CB, as in CB paper, I tried to create an atmosphere like that. So in the first part, the basic introduction is given here, right? In the second part, there is first appendix, and the second, then there is another appendix, and there are requirements, right? Suggested answer option, suggested answer. This is something which we'll look at later, right? So the first thing which you need to do while starting the question is that you just need to copy this requirement, and you just need to paste it on Word. Yeah, you just need to paste it. Mm, okay, right. Why I'm doing this? Because this is this format of report. You have to start from 2, right? Um, Let me try to zoom it a bit. 2 from date and subject. These are few fundamental things which always are required for the starting of the report, right? And then you have to go for introduction. I believe don't write introduction at the starting phase. Again, this is an opportunity for CB. When if you are doing a manual paper, you have to do all these things. You have to plan it first, right? So don't. My advice is don't write the introduction in the first part. Then first of all, you have to go for the evaluation. This is the first part of your report, right? So this is the first part, and this is the second part, right? And if you are doing like this, so you will probably not miss any requirement. That is the basic idea, right? So professional marks is not required here. So these are the four requirements which we are supposed to write, right? And then you have to put an appropriate heading for this. So evaluation, we can write it evaluation of performance report, right? Just delete this part. I'm keeping 20 marks here because just to have an idea that how much I need to write. Then the second one is using the data in Appendix 1, recommend with appropriate calculation and justification 3 new performance measurement for the company as requested. So we have to make a proper heading for this. So let's make it like this. You can write it like this: recommendation of uh, I think I made a mistake here. Recommend. Don't forget. Just forget about the spelling. Recommendation of 3 new performance indicator, or you can write it like this: 3 new performance measurement for company. As requested is not a proper thing for heading. This is the second heading. Third heading is advise the appropriate performance measures. You can do it afterwards as well. After writing all those answers, you can do it afterwards as well. But this is basically, I just want to give you a look of your report. Advise on the appropriate performance measurement and system for Chiven when using the value chain analysis. So advice on appropriate, what you can do here is advise on value chain analysis. Simple. Value chain approach, right? And then discussion of the development of the big data. So we can do it big data potentials and potentials and impact of big data, or you can simply write big data, whatever the heading is feasible. So this is basically these are four headings which will be of, I mean, of which our report will comprise of. So you have to start from this, right? And then now let's start with the question. So first of all, we just given a look of the report. In manual paper you have to do a similar approach, but in manual paper again the problem is you cannot, if you want to undo the heading, that will create a mess in your on your paper, on your answer script. So that is something which is a problem, which can be a problem. Apart from that, it's simple, it's fine, right? So now let's read the requirement. Let's see what is given here, and then we will look at in appendix number 1 and 2 and then requirement, right? So what we are going to first fundamentally we are going to do, we are going to evaluate the performance report in appendix number 1 as requested, right? So let's start with this requirement. Let's see what we can do here. Since we are working on a CB environment, I'm trying to portray a CB environment, so I'm not going to write anything on the screen, right? I can do that obviously, but I am not going to write anything on a screen because I just want to give you a feeler that if you are working in a remote examination environment, what I think that is the correct word, remote CB paper, whatever that is. So how you are going to do that, right? So let's open a small window here. We can minimize it like this, right? All right. So let's see what is given here. Chiven store is a listed clothing retailer in Beeland. Its overall aim is to become the largest clothing retailer in Beeland and deliver exceptional values to the shareholder. We know one thing, that whenever we are dealing with a strategic report, the performance indicator must be in line. I'm using the word must be in line with the mission statement, right? So before moving ahead, since we are not writing on paper, we are just writing it. So before moving ahead, let's write the mission statement, right? Acha, I would like to give you one disclaimer. At any point of time, if you get a message that I have left the meeting, that is because of power failure, because in Pakistan we have power shortages. So in case something happened, I forgot to give that disclaimer earlier. We have power shortages issue, power failure issue. So if that happen, it will require around 2 to 3 minutes to restore everything, right? So that is just a disclaimer. I forgot to mention that. All right. So we are going to start with the first part. Its overall aim is to become the largest clothing retailer in Beeland and deliver exceptional values to the shareholder. This is the aim. This is the objective of company, right? So we can start with this, right? We are just trying to, I mean, apart from writing it on a sketch pad, right? Let's write it on the main report, right? So what is the first part? First part is to become the largest clothing retailer. To This is basically the objective of company to become. I will not write complete answer here. To become largest uh, clothing retailer in Beeline, right? This is the first objective, and the second objective is that to deliver exceptional values to the shareholder. Deliver exceptional values to the shareholder, right? Now, these two are the first, this is basically the mission statement of company or what is the objective. Now, you have to concentrate, you have to think, what do you mean by these two statements first before moving ahead? I'm just giving you 1 minute break. Well, not exactly that break. I'm just taking a 1 minute break. Meanwhile, you just think, what do you mean by these two statements, and then we can start. I just want to have a glass of water, so just think over it. See, if you want to become the largest clothing retailer in Beeland, then market share is the most important part. If you if your report doesn't contain any market share, that means a very important information is missing, right? Or if I say that a company is having 5% market share or a company is having 10% market share, do you think that this is the largest clothing retailer in Beeland? My company is having 10% market share. Do you really think I am a market leader? It depends. Maybe I am a market leader, maybe I'm not a market leader. The important point is that relative market share or the market share of industry leader. These two things are very important here, right? Deliver exceptional values to the shareholder. Probably that can be economic value added, that can be share price, that can be EPS. Economic value added is usually considered to be the best one. So this is something which should be given in the report. This is basically what we can understand by considering these two lines, these two statements, right? Now let's move ahead. It has, sorry, it has recently dropped down the clothing retailer ranking from fourth to fifth largest. Now this is an important point because this means that it has recently dropped down clothing retailer ranking from fourth to fifth. So that means what? That means company is not the main market leader in the current scenario. So it's important to know that how far we are from the market leader. Is it 5%? Is it 4%? Is it 3%? Is it 10%? So it will let us know the gap which we need to fulfill to meet this objective. So this is an important piece of information. If you want to write, you may. If we don't need, we will delete that, right? So from fifth to fourth, this is basically what we have gone through. Acha, shareholders have expressed their concern at the lack of dividend growth at the time when spending in Beeline clothing market has been growing. So this is an area of concern that shareholders are not happy. I'm just writing what is given in the scenario, and then we will mix and match things. We can adjust everything. So suppliers are not happy with the dividend growth. So dividend growth, it can be an issue, right? Acha, there has been a recent change in the CEO, and the new CEO has identified that the performance reporting in Chiven is not fit for the needs of the business. She has asked you to prepare a report to the board to address the performance measurement and management issues which she sees as most important. Her plan is to achieve the overall aim by maximizing our opportunities from new technology and increasing our currently small web presence. Now, this is what there has been a change in CEO, and the new CEO has some more plans. Now, what are her plans? Her plan is to achieve the overall aim. Let me use marker. I think it's important to use it here. Um, I'm taking my words back because I think it's important here. Her plan is to achieve this part. Her plan is to achieve the overall aim by maximizing our opportunities from new technologies and increasing our currently small web presence. So, this is also something which she wants to do, right? Do you think it should be the part of your report? Yes, That this should be the part of report, because this is, she's a new CEO, she wants you to do this, right? So let's write it, let's also write it here. I'm just writing it, that's it, that's all what I'm doing, right? So the next part is maximizing opportunities from new technology, right? I'm just because I mean we have time is a scarce resource here, so I'm just giving you a flavor, so I'm not concentrating on the spelling and everything. And what's next? Increasing our currently small web presence. Increase, or you can write improve web presence. This is, these are two further issues which she wants to address, which she wants to excel, right? She wants a detailed evaluation. She wants a detailed evaluation, right? This part, detailed evaluation of the current performance report, which is used by the board for its annual review of the business, which is in appendix number 1. She wants this task to split into into two parts. First, evaluate the existing set of measures and their presentation, and then second, add three new measures which you believe address key issues of the business but are not currently used by the on the report. Now, uh, these lines are very uneven, but try to understand. Evaluate the existing set of measures. This is the first part, right? And their presentation. Let me try to do it like this. Just a second. Evaluate the existing set of performance measurement. This is the first part. And their presentation, you have to work in these two parts. And then second, add three new measures which you believe address the key issues for the business but are not currently on the report. This is a very important requirement. I will tell you why. I will tell you why I'm saying that this is a very important requirement, because this is something which students have failed to answer. And I will tell you the reason why. She has stated that the report does not need, now this is again very important, this is something which is very highly irritating for the examiner. Examiner has specifically said that she has stated that report does not need a commentary, as she and the finance director talked through the report in detail with the board, that whether company performed well, whether company couldn't perform well, what went right, what went wrong. You don't have to do anything regarding that. And this is a requirement. This is a part which has been expressed in so many questions, that examiner is literally begging you that for God's sake don't comment on this. We know that you know this commentary, don't comment on this, comment on other things. But the students are continuously ignoring that part. So this is something which is very irritating for the examiner. Trust me, you any candidate who did this in the examination is couldn't pass the paper, because that is a very stupid mistake, I call it. In addition, in additional effort to drive to improvement and gain competitive advantage for Chiven, the board has decided to use the value chain as business integration tool. Board have decided to use. That means board is not using till now. Board has decided to use. That means we are going to introduce this in the company. That means you have to mention an introduction para of what is the value chain analysis whenever you are writing anything about that. The CEO has provided a copy of value chain analysis with which was discussed in the last board meeting in appendix number 2. Sorry, appendix number 2 here. This part, appendix number 2 here. She believes that further improvement in Chiven performance can be achieved through the simplification of supply chain. This is another thing which she wants to do. Simplification of supply chain. The CEO believed that this is the implication for the performance measure, that this has implication for the performance measurement information system at Chiven, and wants you report to address this as well, right? This is an important point. Finally, the CEO has already identified one important reason for a company's poor performance, and that is SEB is necessary to solve question in order. Question 1, 2, 3, 4. No. You can solve any question first. It, it's not, but when you are performing a report, try to follow a logical order. That's important. She believes, what I was saying, she believes that the board does not understand the implication of the volume, velocity, and variety of this data for the business and wants you to write a guide for them. Again, big data is not used by the company. Again, you have to write an introduction para. She is aware that this new and rapidly development area for most business, so she considered that the board should also be briefed about the risk and challenges. The CEO wants a report which she can present to the board to address these various performance issues at Chiven. Now we are supposed to write the answer. Let's because we are supposed to evaluate the existing. Let me try to highlight if I can. We have to evaluate the existing set of measures and their presentation, right? And in secondary part, we have to go for appendices. So let's see what is in appendix number 1, right? This is appendix number 1. I don't know if you can see it properly or not. Okay, fine. Let's just split it in this manner. See, this is the first part. This is the first part, and then there is a second part as well. This is the first part. You are seeing this report first time. I am giving you 2 to 3 minutes to analyze the problem of this report. Let me clear one thing again. We have to report on the basis of evaluate the existing set of measures and the presentation. So let me do one more thing before starting this question. Where we are here, yeah. Evaluation of the performance report. This was the original requirement, right? Let's make a subheading, evaluation of the existing set of measures, right? This is the first heading, and second heading will be presentation of report, right? So we know that we have to write the first part in 2 subheadings, evaluation of the existing set of performance measures and evaluation of existing set and presentation of report. So first of all, let's talk about the presentation of report, right? You can write anything first, but let's talk about the presentation of report. So we are talking about how well this information has been presented, right? I'm giving you 2 to 3 minutes to check this part and just identify. If you can write on your notebooks, you can write a brief points that what actually is good in this report and what is actually poorly presented in this report. Remember, we are just talking about presentation. We are not talking about anything else. Take 1 to 2 minutes to read this part. You can write it on chat box as well. ठीक है, right. Breakdown of or classification is given. That is a good part. What you wrote, breakdown of men and women or division? Breakdown of or classification. Okay, fine. Product wise. I can write it like this. Product wise class breakdown is given. All right. Then product wise and division wise, both. Right? That is a good part. Acha, what's next? Anything anyone wants to write on in chat box? No industry comparison. Perfect. Lack of, we can write it lack of industry information. No ratios for comparison. Yeah. Acha, one more point I just want to highlight here. I'm writing it in the wrong part. I would also just market share along with the region and product breakup. Okay, right. 20 marks means let's break up it like this: 10 marks for the presentation and 10 marks for no direct competitor benchmark. Acha, wait, there is one more part here. This is a secondary part as well. Um, Acha, what if I ask you about whether it's too much information, whether it's too less information, considering this is another part of the report. Let me try to highlight it. This is the other part of the report, right? But considering this first part, do you think that this is the balanced amount of information which is given, or is there too much information is given? Okay, there are few points here. There is no there is no sort of commentary to the report. Too much information, too much operational information. uh, okay, fine. So I agree with this idea that there is too much information, right? And okay, fine. One more thing I just want to add here. Okay, fine, let's add it later. um This is the another part: number of stores, EPS, dividend, EVA, inventory turnover, average, number of production lines, floor spaces, market share, number of employees, number of suppliers, ROC, number of accidents, average queuing time for customers, WAC, average time between customer entry and employee greeting, inventory obsolescences. I agree with this idea that operational information is given here. Operational information is given which is not relevant for at strategic level, right? One more thing which is also missing is percentage change has not been mentioned, right? Percentage change has not been mentioned anywhere, right? So this is something which we identified as a problem, right? There can be some other problem as well. uh, mm, One more thing. Just look at this part. Just look at this part. Revenue from clothing and no information of related to market share. Just a second, let me complete this part. Revenue of clothing is this, and revenue from other product is this. So revenue from other product is 64,000 or 64 million, which is insignificant as compared with the total revenue. So this 9 by 9 metrics could have been sum up as revenue from other products. So it would provide a much simpler way to understand the requirement, because there's no use of this. There's no use of writing other revenue from other men, women, and men, women, and children, because that is not providing you much information. It's not beneficial. In fact, something which is not beneficial, something is which is not beneficial for you, that should not be reported, right? So um, we can write it there here like mm, what you can say here is that uh, we can write it here. Too much information, we will write it here. All right. So this is basically something which we have already identified, that these are some things. Now I'm just giving you an idea about how to write the answer, right? I'm just giving you an option. Just see, there are three options which I wrote. This is the first answer which you may write. I'm just talking, I'm not writing everything here because obviously that is not what we have to do. This is something which we have haphazardly answered. That revenue has been shown in the report, but the figures are not useful as it is merely representing revenue in absolute term without any comparison with the last year. Also, total revenue of both year is given without any percentage change year on year basis. That is completely a valid thing, because we know that this is a problem with the report. A graph can be used to easily show this information, as it is clearly seems information overload. Graph in the sense, component bar chart is what? Component bar chart, I'm not sure whether you guys know that or not. Component bar chart is this total revenue comprised of men, women, and children, and then total revenue comprised of men, women, and children, so that you can easily idea. Then what it says, I just wrote it. Then it says similarly, revenue from other businesses in a small proportion could have been summed up as other revenues without further split of this category, as this is a useless information because you will not get so much information from that. Considering operating profit percentage, it is almost same figure. Now this is I forgot to mention here. Operating profit percentage, this 9 by 9 matrix, this 9 by 9 matrix is given here, right? Operate Clothing operating profit percentage is same almost in all three regions. This is almost same, this is almost same, this is almost same, this is almost same, and this is almost same. So these two 9 by 9 matrices could have been easily summed up as average operating profit margin of from men, average operating profit margin from women, and then children, and then other part. So that could have been done well. And apart from, and instead of writing so many information here, the most important point was that you should have given some idea about operating profit percentage of any other company, so that we may know that okay fine, we are generating 15% operating profit percentage, what other are doing, right? So that could have been a very good idea, but that is obviously not present here, right? So so this is here information which could have helped company to identify. Oh, sorry. Um, this part, considering operating profit percentage as it's almost same figure for. Let me try to highlight. Yeah, considering operating profit percentage, it's almost same figures for clothing and other brands. So it could have been pooled up as an average operating profit percentage in order to avoid 9 by 9 matrices. No prior period in operating profit comparison has been mentioned in order to identify any change in operating profit percentage. Similarly, average industry operating profit percentage could have been information which could have helped the company in identification of performance gap with the industry. There are few indicators which are not connected with the mission statement and are of operational nature, which are irrelevant. So this is an answer. This is the kind of answer which we have presented, right? There is another way of answering the same question like this. I mean, this is the first category and this is the second category. There are three, not three major problems. I split it into five. There are five major problems in the strategic report: information overload, lack of industry average, lack of percentage of change and comparative figures, repetition of same information, report contain operational nature information, right? This is another way of presenting the same thing, right? But now we told the examiner that look, these are five issues and these issues are discussed below. So I alternatively marked all these things here, like this is the issue which is in third part, this is the first part, this is the first issue we have highlighted here. This is another way of answering the same question. And this is the third way of answering the same question, right? Presentation of report. We are commenting on the presentation of report and our presentation of answer is inappropriate. So that doesn't make any sense. So I wrote it like this: logical flow of information is missing. That is something which I deliberately didn't discuss when we were doing in appendix 1, because we haven't done that evaluation part. So I will discuss it later. So we have identified one, two, three, four, five, 6 areas which are having where we are having problems, and then we have and then I wrote examples of all these problems, like information. I'm starting from information overload. Too much details about revenue is given which is unnecessary. For example, revenue from other services presented a small proportion of total revenue, which from each division it could have easily been mentioned as revenue from other products in order to avoid extra information, as sometimes it is used as a deliberate tool to hide poor performance. So I just rearranged this part. I just rearranged this part into few headings. I personally believe that this is a better way of answering the same question. All three answers are perfectly correct, but the only problem is that when the examiner says you have to follow, you have to go for headings, and you have to make life for examiner easier. Don't make his life a hell. He's just uh, checking your answer and he just have no clue what you have written there. So with a glance I can identify what is written here, and it's easier for me to give you answer. 10 marks, 6 requirements, 2 marks per requirement can be the thing, 1 mark for the identification and 1 mark for the justification. I believe that this you can write it like this, right? So I'm not wasting time in uh, writing it again, because we are already having short time here. So in so we just need to copy paste here, right? So we are done with the first part, right? Presentation of report, this is for 10 marks, and this is the first part. Evaluation of the existing performance measures, we will do this part and we can have a 5 minutes break then. Now we have to justify that whatever is in the mission statement has been measured in this report, right? So first of all, we have to look at what is in the mission statement, right? What is in the mission statement? I wrote it somewhere. Yeah, this is in the mission statement, right? So we have to start from a very basic idea that um, strategic performance report should be prepared in a manner that it includes all information in a manner which include all information or all performance indicators which are in line with the mission statement. So that improvement in performance indicator will lead to achievement in mission statement, right? This is an introductory para which you have to write. Just forget about the spellings and everything. Mission statement of Chiven comprised of that part we have mentioned here. Uh, let's make it bit clear. Um, these bullet options are also available in your mm, ACC platform, right? This is basically the first part. Now, there is one more thing which probably we are missing, and that is number of measures introduced by the new CEO, right? So what we can do here, this is mission statement of Shivan comprised of, right? And if you're confused whether you should write it here or not, you can find out a midway in the sense, uh, objectives set by the new CEO are, or you can write further. There are further, since there was a change in CEO, further objectives have also been. There are few new indicators set by CEO, objectives set by CEO. Whatever you want to write. This is not an English part test, so just make some bullets here. Mm, right. And along with that, improve the presence. There's one more thing which the question says that you have to your report to address this as well. That is simplification of supply chain, right? And big data, use of big data. You can write if adopted. These are new objectives, or you can say secondary objectives, because the overall aim company will achieve overall aim by using these secondary objectives. So you can write word of secondary objectives. You can write the way we are going to do that. So you can write any suitable word here. We can write secondary objectives here, because this is basically, she said that she wants to do that. Um yeah, her plan is to achieve the overall aim by using this. So this can be considered as a secondary objective, but if you write objective, that would be equally good, right? Now we have to make sure that the appendix which is given with appendix number 1 is uh, measuring all these things. So what is in appendix number 1? See, this is in appendix number 1, right? So the first part is maximizing the the first, become the largest clothing retailer in Beeland. This is the first objective, and that require market share. Let's see market share is given here or not. The first part, this part is just measuring the revenues and profits, so just forget about this part. Let's move to this part. This is very important here. Earning per share is given here, dividends per share is given here, economic value added is given here. So the economic value added, and what was that? Become the largest clothing retailer in Beeland. Let's try to figure out if market share is given here. Yeah, market share is also given here. So the most crucial performance indicator, which is directly connected with your mission statement, is given at last, after representing the revenues and profits. We just casually represented these indicators, which should be present at the, logically it should be at the top of the report, because something which is really very important should be at the top. That's why I said that I will discuss that logical flow later, because and if you forgot to write it, you may add it now. That we forgot to, I mean, if you forgot, if you haven't wrote that logical part, you can add it later on. So that is the benefit of CB. Um, market share is given here. Market share was 10 point, market share was 2017 and 18. Let me try to write it here, because we will, this is 17 and this is 2018. So there has been an increase in market share. No, there has been a decrease in market share. That's why they said that we move from fifth to fourth to fifth. You don't have to comment on the market share, right? You don't have to comment on the market share, whether what to do to improve this market share, nothing. You just need to discuss that. I'm not writing it completely. uh, First objective, to become the largest clothing retailer, has been addressed through market share, can be analyzed through market share, which is present here. But the deficiency is what? Deficiency is the relative market share, or market share of large. You want to become the largest market, you want to become the market leader now. So you should know the market share of market leader in order to identify the gap which you have to reduce in future, right? So this is the first part. So we know that we are evaluating means that this is a good part, company address this issue, right? So this is perfectly fine, but we just need to add relative market share, or we just need to add a market share of the a comparative statement of market share of the market leader, right? The second statement says deliver exceptional values to the shareholder. Try to identify whether that part has been addressed or not in these indicators. Economic value added has been mentioned, right? Economic value added has been mentioned, that can lead to the increase in the value of shareholder, right? And why we are saying why, and now we have to use the word justification. Justification is what? Justify why we are justifying this, because this will this will ensure that the project is earning up profits which are greater than the cost of capital. So that is increasing the value of the share. Also, the company is having a dividend per share. The company is also having earning per share, that can also be used as an indicator of how much benefit we are providing to the shareholder. So the prime one is the EVA. Then as a secondary tool, we can use EPS and dividend per share, because dividend was a major area of concern for the shareholder. So EPS has all dividend per share is also given here. That will make sure whether the concern of shareholder is valid or not. That will show the concern of shareholder is valid or not, right? So we are justifying everything, right? We are justifying that why market leader is important. You can write it, I haven't written that. Then there is one more thing, maximizing opportunities from new technology. Do you think anything is mentioned here? Maximizing opportunities from new technology, not given here. So max improvement of web presence. Improvement of web presence in the sense whether we are selling via web or not, right? What else you can do via web? So website is used to marketing and selling and online selling, because usually clothing retailing business is for that. So nothing about that has been mentioned. Simplification of supply chain, is that mentioned here? Anything? Simplification of supply chain. Number of stores, dividend per share, inventory turnover, average number of product lines bought per supplier. This can be used because in 2017 we were buying 64 lines product lines, and in 2018, I hope I written right, yeah, we are buying 66, so this can be used here. And nothing much. So we can say that primary objectives are measured here. One more thing which is important, you may write that here, that external information about EVA is not given, which will help the company to make sure whether company is generating enough revenues, enough value as compared with the other companies. It's optional, right? And then we can write for nothing about secondary objectives are mentioned, have been mentioned in the report, right? Except for what you can say, simplification of supply chain, right? That part you can identify by using this number of product lines bought per supplier, right? So this is basically how you can construct your answer. I Because of we don't have much time, so I'm not writing it completely. I've written it here. mm, this part, evaluation of current performance measures in presentation. Our strategic report should have been aligned with the mission statement. This is the introduction paragraph, and you may learn it. This is something which is always present in the statements, that you have your mission report should be in line with the mission statement. So these are few statements we have already written there, right? For the first part of current mission statement, market share and relevant market share of the company is important so that management can analyze whether the company is standing, where the company is standing right, and how much effort it needs to put on if want to become the market leader in future. This point is used to justify that why we think that the relative market share is important. You must justify it. Remember, you must justify it. And then uh, current market share is given, but related. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. For shareholder value creation, EVA, EPS both are given, so that second part of mission statement can be measured through it. I forgot to write why EVA is important here, but you should write it here, that EVA generates more profit as compared with the cost of capital. Acha, performance indicators for the objectives set by new CEO. Can we have these notes? Yes, yes, I will provide it. There has been no indicator in the report which can deal with the new objectives. Only simplification of value chain can be analyzed by using number of suppliers as decreased. So measures like increase in sales through website for website presence, number of products purchased per supplier, simplification can be used. So we just wrote it that what else we can do here. What is the deficiency here? Deficiency in the sense this part has not been properly addressed. So we can write what indicators we can use to make sure that to measure these performances, right? So this is basically the 20 marks requirement, right? This is a, a simple part of 20 marks requirement, that evaluation of existing set of performance measurement presentation. This is the first part and this is the second part, right? So my point is that you just need to plan your answer. You have to make sure that whatever you are writing is correct. Let me show you the marking scheme if I can. Mm, एक second, just a second. I'm doing one thing. I don't want you guys to. Just a second. Yeah. Where we were? Suggested answer. Yeah. Right. So the question, what examiner is saying identification, the aim up to 4 marks. That what are the aims of the organization? and picking out the topics and prioritizing these identification if the aims are measured. Aims means these things, these parts, these aims are measured or not. So that is basically up to 10 marks. General comment is for presentation. For example, repetition of measures, grouping, external info, forward looking info, focus on strategic, not operational, need for web measures, as well as store based measures, marks for general points and specific points. So these are few ideas which you need to write in your paper. Definitely, you obviously, I'm not saying that you should earn 100% marks. 100% marks are obviously very difficult to earn, but 16 out of 20, 80% is fine, or 15 out of 20, 75%. That's a good percentage, right? So I'm just going for a 5 minutes break, and we are because it's getting very heavy. So we are going for 5 minutes break, and then we will return after 5 minutes to see the other part. We will quickly go through the other part because the other part is not that much time consuming, so we'll do it a bit quickly, right? So we are going to have a 5 minutes break, and then we will return in order to complete the other parts of the requirement, right? Thank you. If you have any issue, you may write it in the chat box. All right. Mm, probably yes. One for identification and one for justification. All right. You're welcome. All right. Now we are moving towards the second requirement. Let me try to save this. Mm, just a second. Okay, I will save it later. Um, Now we are moving towards the second requirement. Second requirement was the three new performance measures for Chiven, right? That is for 8 marks. Now, what is the problem here? Let me try to highlight the issue. What is the problem? And examiner has actually asked you to advise using the data in appendix number 1 recommendation, this part. Using the data in appendix number 1, recommend with appropriate calculation and justification three new performance measures for Chiven as requested. Examiner, according to examiner, this part has been poorly done by the candidates. Why? Because this is not the type of question which we regularly see in our paper. Usually what happens is that whenever we find something which is not in the report, we try to recommend that. For example, we haven't seen any part which is related to uh, we haven't seen any part which is related to these indicators. Sorry, let me try to mm, yeah. Since we haven't seen any part related to maximization of opportunities for new technology, increasing currently small web presence and use of big data and simplification of supply chain. So what we used to do, we say that okay, fine, these since these performance indicators are absent, are not present in the report, so we usually tend to advise the company that company should use this. This is a very normal course of action in majority of the questions, right? But here, this is not the case. Now, try to read this requirement very carefully, and I'm trying to copy and paste. Okay, fine, let's not copy and paste it here. Read this requirement carefully. Using data in appendix number 1. This appendix number 1 is really very important, that you have to use data in appendix number 1 only. Whatever is given in appendix number 1, use that. For what? For recommendation with appropriate calculation and justification. You have to recommend, number 1, you have to calculate, number 2, and you have to justify, number 3. There are three things which you have to do. I'm repeating. You have to recommend, you have to justify, and you have to calculate, right? The three new performance measures for Chiven as requested. Now let's move to appendix number 1. This is appendix number 1, right? And there are few students who have identified that company should use customer satisfaction, company should use sales from web services, and company should use sales made from big data analysis. So these were few recommendations made by students, right? And that makes sense too, because if you are measuring sales via a website, that is that is directly connected with the second objective, and the second objective was this part. uh, increasing currently small websites. So if you are saying that we have to measure sales made from from by using website, that perfectly suits this part. If you are saying that sales made via big data if adopted, so that is a perfect measure. If you are using simplification of supply chain, for simplification of supply chain, if you are recommending anything, that is perfectly matching here. But the problem is what? The problem is if you are recommending that the sales made via by website, you can justify that, but you cannot calculate that. Why? Because sales from website is not mentioned in this report, in this appendix number 1. That's basically the key. That's basically the issue. Examiner said majority of students did this. And why did they this? Because they have a behavior, they have a practice of doing this. So they did this in this question as well. So there were two issues in this question. The first issue was there were few indicators, there were few objectives that went unaddressed in this report. We cannot recommend that because if we are, let me try to write it if because it's getting difficult for me to elaborate. Let me try to write it here. If you are using if you are using sorry mm, oh sorry uh, something is not perfect here. Yeah, if you are using say if you are suggesting that sales revenue via website, this is actually connected with the indicator of web presence. But the problem is that you can recommend this, you can justify this, you cannot calculate this. If you are saying sales generated via big data, you can recommend this, you can justify this, you cannot calculate this. And the question asks you to recommend appropriate with appropriate calculations and justification. So this part will cannot be performed. What is the other problem? Other problem is with the presentation of data. Can we do something in terms of presentation of data? Yes, we can do that. um this part is really tough, I believe, because this is very unusual part. We can try to minimize, we can try to make presentation better, and by using the problematic part. And what is the problematic part? Problematic part is not this is not the problematic part. Problematic part is this one. We are saying that so much information has been presented at this part, so which is making it very difficult for user to understand the requirement, understand the performance, right? So what we can do here, we can yeah, problem is I am unable to mention complete report. Yeah, now we can do it. What we can do here is that we can calculate there are number of stores, right? So we can calculate revenue per store, right? We can calculate revenue per store in order to make sure that which store that on average whether efficiency of stores have been improved or not, right? We can calculate revenue per employee. Let me try to choose a different color here. Okay, we can calculate revenue per employee. This will this will and how we are going to justify that? We can justify it by saying that this will help the company to identify the efficiency of employee. This will help to identify company the efficiency of stores, so that company can have an idea whether to open another store or not, how important is the opening of a store or not. But still we there is a lack of information because we cannot do it on regional basis. Then there is a floor area as well. So we can identify revenue per. meter square. So, right, so any of these, any one or two of these you can recommend, because that will reduce the overall presentation, that will summarize the presentation. And this is something which we can calculate also. That is, calculation part is really important. The other part which is creating a mess here is the profit, because there's so many things related to profit has been mentioned here. So we can repeat the same exercise by using profits, right? So profit per store we can measure profit per employee. Per employee is not a very good idea. We can use profit per meter square. And so you can use two of these, because profit is more important as compared with revenue, and any one of these. So that can help you to reduce the level of information which has been presented. I still believe that if you are recommending these things, these are more valuable things. But the only limitation is we cannot calculate this. Now let me try to identify what examiner has said in his examiner report. Um, I'm not writing it again. I'm just telling you how to write this. These are three measures. We have identified revenue per employee, we have identified revenue per meter square and profit per meter square, and we make a justification. So we have identification 1 mark, calculation 1 mark, and justification is for 1 mark, right? And what examiner has seen in report, see this part which I have highlighted. Candidates should also have avoid making the same point. No, 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 not this one. Mm, Part 2 require a presentation, required a recommendation with justification and calculation, and using the data in the appendix number 1. For three new performance measures, this question was generally poorly done. That means this is not the fault of a Pakistani student or any other student. This is a general problem, global problem. So those who are in minority in this case excel in the paper. Candidates often ignored the requirement to consider the data in appendix number 1 and offered other measures based on a broader consideration of the business. Justified suggestions are rewarded. This is another important point to make sure that if you have recommended and justified, you will still get some marks. But since you haven't calculated that, you will not get calculation part marks wherever possible. But such an approach made calculations impossible, as the answer like this were offered without any calculations, because there is no room for calculation, there is no information for the calculation. Candidates should also be aware that this is the justification that is being tested in a question such as this, much more than mere calculation. The skill that candidates should demonstrate in an understanding of the company in this situation, its situation, and justification suggestion and justified suggestion. Again, the word justification is really very important as to where a different measures would improve upon those already being utilized in the report. Candidates often did not suggest measures only improvements to sorry. Candidates often did not suggest measures only improvements to performance or measures which clearly do not being logically or rationally thought through thought though. Again, candidates can improve their performance in this area if they assess the measures usefulness from the perspective of helping the company to achieve its aim of, say, CSF. So again, this is important. Candidates should also try to avoid giving examples such as customer satisfaction, which are unjustified in terms of how they will improve the already existing measure, because customer satisfaction is not mentioned in the mission statement. So that will not help the company to work in line with the management mission statement. So if you are saying that, that is perfectly a correct answer, but not relevant for the situation. It could have been relevant to a situation where examiner asks you to, where mission statement suggests that company is the objective of company to satisfy the customers, right? So this is basically what the situation is, right? So this part has been poorly examined by poorly written by the candidates, right? Now, what is this part has been done. I haven't done this part because we are getting short of time. We are getting out of time, and then you have to advise an appropriate performance measurement system for Chiven when using the value chain approach to simplify the value chain. The objective is to simplify the value chain. Advise on appropriate performance measures and systems for the company when using the value chain to simplify this. Now, for this, this is basically whenever examiner asks value chain, it usually gives you this diagram. We already know what this diagram is. Now, the objective of the company is to simplify the value chain, right? This is the objective. Remember, don't write anything. And what the company is doing, company is in a retailing business. So whenever you are in retailing business means what? Operational part is not there because you are not manufacturing anything, right? And you are more concerned with the procurement part. And since the company said that company will use something which is going to make most of the IT part somewhere. I forgot to highlight that. Mm, Maximizing opportunities from new technology and increasing our this one simplification of supply chain and use of big data. So how we are going to suggest this? Mm, we have to advise the company in such a manner that this whole concept will become more leaner, more precise, more concise. And how this can be done? This can be done via procurement, mainly via procurement, because procurement is buying products from the supplier, and IT can definitely help the company in the buying of those products, right? Infrastructure will not help the company. Firms infrastructure will not help much to the company. In fact, if company will in future, if company move towards the online business more, this infrastructure will definitely that will also reduce, because in online business you tend to have lower infrastructure, right? So we have to make sure that we are using technology and procurement. These two areas will help the company to identify the issues. Now, how can we do that? See, IT can be used to identify those suppliers. How many marks with this? This is just of 7 marks, right? 7 marks is not a big deal. So we can IT can help us to identify those suppliers which are from which we can buy maximum products. So we don't have a huge amount of number of suppliers. So that supplier will get the number of supplier will reduce, right? In that case, number one. Number two, if we integrate the process, if we integrate the process, so what will happen? See, in appendix number one, we know that there are three regions A, B, and C. It's not mentioned that how far these regions are, but if we can integrate these regions, these systems, then we know that anything which is unsold in region A can be sold somewhere else, right? Transportation cost will definitely increase in that case, but real time system or real time dashboard system ERPs can help the company to jot down this issue, to reduce this issue, considering the fact that there is also an inventory obsolescence in the company, right? So IT and procurement can help the company to do this. Also, if you want to make use of big data, so big data can help the company to for the marketing and sales, because this will help you to identify the potential customer. We will discuss big data part later, but that will help the company to identify the potential customer, targeted marketing and everything. I'm assuming that you guys know all these things. So these things can be this can make your life easier, right? So we can justify, we have to identify and we have to justify. And we have to justify one more point. One more point is that since inbound logistics and outbound logistics, inbound logistics, sorry, operations will not be a very important part here because a company is working in a retailing business. That is very important point to consider. And since the company is now, company was not using any value based management, company is introducing, so you have to write definition as well, right? So 7 marks was for this. Definition is for 1 mark, right? And these marks, these 3 points are for 1 mark or 2 mark, 2 marks per point. You can write it here. And if you want to if you want to write, you may write a small brief introduction of the primary activities and secondary activities if you want to do so, right? So I just want you guys to go through the examiner report because there's surprisingly there's one more thing which is important here. Mm, Part 3. Required candidates to advise on appropriate performance measurement system for the company when using value chain approach to simplify the supply chain. The value chain diagram was not given on the appendix. Many candidates, however, spent time explaining the value chain and offer detailed definition of each part of the 9 components. Such responses clearly did not address the question asked. You were asked to make it leaner, simplify. This is not going to help you. Few candidates appreciated that the focus of this question was on the supply chain and that a few, only few, questions such as this testing candidate's ability to evaluate the effect of one thing upon the other. Therefore, the value chain was only relevant in so far as might help to simplify the supply chain, which ensured that the focus was on a specific part of the value chain, right? The next important point is here, this part. Perhaps due to having rote learned the value chain, discuss how the company might also help its product process. It is very clear that the scenario that the company is in the retail sector and therefore do not manufacture any of the goods they sell. This further emphasizes the importance of reading the question and being aware of the specifics of the company situation. The examiner is saying that majority wrote this in terms of manufacturing system. What they learned in P3, they just revise all the syllabus what they learned in P3. So that's something which is not good, right? So this is basically the third part. So I'm just going through this suggested answer because I just want to make sure that we can do one more question here. If we can do it, we have half an hour left. So this is basically the structure. In the structure, we have already discussed the first part, right? We identified the new performance indicators. Value chain analysis, we just wrote, I just wrote that what is good part and what is, in the first part, value chain analysis comprise, just a second. This is basic definition of value chain analysis. And then there is an identification. From here, since the company is in retailing business, is not carrying out any specific operation, main area here is the purchasing from supplier and selling goods to the customer. Right now, the issue is that inventory turnover days are high, and so it can be reduced through use of IT system, which will let the company know the exact inventory in which division is holding, so that in case of inventory is unsold in any division, it can be sold somewhere else to reduce the inventory days and obsolescence of the stock. So this is basically we are justifying that why this is important. Also, big data analysis discussed in the next section. This is why, this is basically because we are not writing the definition of big data. Can be used to predict customer behavior and pattern. In case of success in big data, number of stores and employees both can also be reduced, which will cut down fixed cost of the company. Marketing has also played a role established for the true essence of big data. Marketing can be improved, and procurement can also use IT to find out supplier with whom company can buy to increase number of production line in order to make it leaner. And also company can have some discounts in case of bulk purchasing, right? So this is basically an application of value chain analysis, where value chain analysis can help you, help the company to make it more leaner, right? and the development of big data. We will, since big data is not the agenda in today's class, I'm not discussing it, but the important point is that in the marking scheme, you can clearly see that the definition of value chain is of 1 mark, definition of big data is of 1 mark. So you can easily lose 2 marks if you don't respond to these parts. And then one more interesting part, identification of activities. This is value chain part. Identifying the activity types affected up to 2 marks, measuring system up to 3 marks, how we can measure that, and information system is for 3 marks. So 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 marks are available for this part. You can earn maximum 7 marks. So if you forgot to write anything, you can secure marks from the other part, right? So this is basically the first question of Chiven company, and